Hello, guys and girls. This is Wager Detective here, May 21st, 2026. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of the Wager Detective Report, up every day now on YouTube. Follow Wager Detective on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Set alerts on Twitter and subscribe on YouTube. I appreciate all my fans out there. Wager Detective is just getting started. Follow me on this journey. I love all my fans. And reporting live here from Tropicana in Atlantic City. I just capped this Cleveland-Detroit game, and guys, this is a really fascinating cap. Right now, the Guardians are plus 102, and the Tigers are minus 120, and the Guardians are plus 102. The over/under is set at 7.5. Those are the lines when I started capping this game, which was about a little more than an hour and a half ago. So we'll see what they are after I get done this breakdown and we check on in to the live lines. You're with Wager Detective right now in Atlantic City, Tropicana. So feel the vibe, sit back and listen to this cap. Throw your headphones on. I'm going to try to be as seamless as possible with this. Let's get into this cap. We got the Guardians. Make no mistake about it, they're playing great. 7 games above 500. They're 29-22 on the year. They're 8-2 in their last 10. 14-12 in road games for the Guardians this year. They are 6-7 in one-run games, and they're 8-5 versus the American League Central. Now, the last 10-day games for the Guardians at the Tigers. Last 9. The Guardians at the Tigers during day games, they're 3-6. So something to keep in mind there. They're scoring 1.88 runs per game to 4 runs per game for the Tigers in their last 9 road day games at Detroit. The Guardians have scored 2 runs or less 5 times in that split. So something to keep in mind on there. So again, Guardians looking good on the year, 8-2 in their last 10, 14-12 on the road, but they are 3-6 in their last 9 road games at Cleveland, and they're scoring 1.88 runs per game over those last 9 day games at Detroit. Now, the Guardians are 2-5 also this year alone in road day games. 6 over, 1 under. In those games, in their road day games this year, the Guardians are scoring 4.42 runs per game to 5.71 for their opponents. That comes out to 10.13 in those 7 road day games this year for Cleveland. And they've scored 2 or less runs 3 times in those 7 road day games this year for Cleveland. So they're looking good. Not doing so good in road day games at Detroit over the last 9, and not doing good in road day games this year. And let's take a look at what's going on. So right now, the Guardians are 8-1 in their last 9 games, 5 over, 4 under. They're scoring 5.77 runs per game to 3 runs per game for their opponent over their last 9. That comes out to a run differential of 52-27. So they're outscoring their opponents over their last 9. Something to think about. And this is going to be the last game of the series before embarking on a new road series with no rest. In the last game of a road series before they're heading to a new town with no rest in between, they are 1-6 in their last 7 in that split. 5 over, 2 under. So you can see how the case is already being built for the over in this game, 7.5. And as this cap goes on, you'll see why I'm kind of leaning that way. So situationally, last game of the series for the Guardians before embarking on a new road series with no rest in between in those games. They are 1-6 in their last 7. Okay, now we get to who's going to be on the mound for the Guardians today, and it's going to be Joey Cantillo. And guys, these guys, they're just absolutely doing fantastic behind him. They're winning games. In Joey Cantillo's last 5 starts, he's pitched 25 innings, 23 hits, 10 earned runs, 15 strikeouts, 3 home runs and 12 bases on balls. That comes out to a 3.6 ERA, a 1.4 WHIP, a 1.08 home runs per nine, and he's striking out only 5.4 Ks, strikeouts per nine over his last 5 outings. The wins in their last 5, in which the Guardians are 4-1 when Joey Cantillo starts, their wins have come against Cincinnati, the Angels, Kansas City, and the Athletics. Now, if you just break that down from that standpoint, I'm not impressed. Cincinnati's looked good against Philly the last couple of days, but overall, their lineup is hit or miss. LA Angels, they're not going to be better than the Tigers this year. Kansas City Royals, even though Tigers aren't playing great, they're good. Tigers will be better than them by the end of the year. And even the Athletics. I like that team, a lot of heart, but I do believe that the Tigers will be better than them over the course of a year. So, Guardians 4-1 in Castillo's last 5 starts. And the Guardians are 8-2 this year when Joey Cantillo starts. In games that Joey Cantillo starts, the Guardians are 8-2. 8 over, 2 under in those games. 6.1 runs per game for the Guardians to 3.5 for their opponents. That comes out to 9.6. Total set at 7.5. Now, Wager Detective did call the over yesterday. I believe I'm just a day off on that over happening. And as this cap goes, we'll see what it is. Okay, so Guardians 4-1 in Castillo's last 5 starts. And the Guardians, a perfect 5-0 this year when Joey Cantillo starts on 4 days rest. In those 5 starts on 4 days rest for Joey Cantillo, 26.1 innings pitched, 20 hits, 9 earned runs, 13 walks, and 2 home runs. He did have 4 walks in his last game. Could be a problem against this lineup of the Tigers, who can be patient at times. So in those 5 wins on Joey Cantillo's 4 days rest this year, that's a 3.07 ERA and a 1.25 WHIP. So, and those wins on 4 days rest have come against Kansas City, Baltimore, the Angels, and the Reds. Baltimore, impressive, but the KC, the Angels, and the Reds, I don't know. I've had high hopes for the Reds this year, even last year when Tito became the manager. I mean, I don't know what to think about them anymore. But you look at that part of the cap, you say everything's looking pretty good. They're playing good recently, but if you go back to, like we said, the last 9 day games in Detroit, they are 3-6, only scoring 1.88 runs per game. And if you look at the road day games this year, they're 2-5. And teams are scoring 5.71 runs per game in those games. So Joey Cantillo kind of brings that back because of how he's pitching recently. But I think the teams that he's pitched against is pause for concern there. So let's keep that in mind as we get into the Tigers part of the cap. The Tigers absolutely playing putrid. They're 20-30. They're 10 games below 500. Far cry from where they were at last year and what they were doing. Now there's concerns with, their ace, and in Framber Valdez and some of the antics he's been doing. They got all the potential in the world, but it's questionable how they're playing recently. 2-8 in their last 10. They are 13-11 at home compared to 7-19 on the road. So they play better at home. That's where they'll be today. But they're 5-10 against left-handed pitching, and they're going to see that today in Joey Cantillo. So it's a little concerning. Okay, in home day games this year, it gets a little bit better for the Tigers. They're 6-2 in their home day games this year. They lost their last 2, but they're 6-2 overall, and those games have been 4 over, 4 under. They have scored 5.75 runs per game in their 8 home day games this year to 3.5 for their opponent. That comes out to a 46-28 run differential for the Tigers this year in home day games. They've scored 5+ runs 5 times in their 8 home day games this year, and their opponents have been held to 2 runs or less 4 times in the 8 home day games this year. Combined score average on those 8 home day games this year for the Tigers comes out to 9.25. So considerable understanding for this to be an over. Even though you got 2 pitchers on the mound that pitch great, have good reputations, wager building a case for the over. Now we get to the Tigers. Yeah, 6-2 in home day games this year, but they're 1-8 in their last 9. 3 over and 6 under. They're only scoring 2.22 runs per game over their last 9 games to their opponent's 5 runs per game. That's a 20 to 45 run differential for the Tigers over their last 9 games. Tigers have scored 2 runs or less 6 times in their last 9 games. Their opponents have scored 4+ 5 times in the last 9 Tigers games this year. So, not looking good, in a bad spot, right? But as we looked and as we mentioned, they are being favored today slightly at home. And something to keep in mind on. Now, since A.J. Hinch has been the coach of the Tigers, and this is a situational part of the cap that Wager Detective does for every cap, being swept at home. They're facing being swept at home. So now under A.J. Hinch, they're 11-16 in games where they're facing being swept. 12 over, 15 under. And if we isolate that down to the last 10, the Tigers are 4-6 in their last 10 games at home where they're looking at when they're facing being swept. 5 over and 5 under in those last 10 situational games. The last 2 have gone under, and the last 2 the Tigers have lost. So 4-6 in their last 10 home games where they're looking at being swept, and 2 of those have happened this year. And they're scoring 3.7 runs per game to 3.7 for their opponent in those last 10 situational games for the Tigers at home looking to be swept. It comes out to 7.4. So really something that it can be concerning, right? Facing a team that swept you last year at home, as I'm looking at my stats right now. So, but they also last year, they were faced being swept against the Guardians last year in a 4-game home series, and they did beat Cleveland 5-0. But later that year, Cleveland got them and swept them in a game where the Tigers lost 1-3. So Cleveland's been playing them pretty tough, right? But not road day games at Detroit, where we said they're 3-6 in their last 9. So the cap is a little confusing. I think it gets a little stronger here as we're going to get into Casey Mize. Now, he was on the disabled list. He had an last outing on May 16th. It was a 1-2 loss against Toronto. He had 6 innings pitched, 2 hits, 0 earned runs, no walks, and struck out 4. So he came back, looked strong, and they just didn't give him run support. Now, he's going to be on 4 days rest here, where the Tigers are 2-3 in Casey Mize's last 5 starts on 4 days rest. 3 over, 2 under in those games. Casey Mize's last 5 games on 4 days rest. 27.1 innings pitched, 31 hits, 15 earned runs, 5 home runs, 7 walks, and 26 Ks. And that comes out to a 4.94 ERA, a 1.39 WHIP, and a 1.64 home runs per 9 over his last 5 starts on 4 days rest. And in those games where the Tigers are 2-3, when Casey starts on 4 days rest, they're scoring 4.8 runs per game, and their opponents are scoring exactly the same. So they're at a disadvantage in the win column, but they're right there on par with scoring for him. And that comes out to 9.6. The 4.8 plus the 4.8, we're coming out to 9.6, well above that 7.5 that the books have up today. Now, this is where it gets really interesting in the cap, and this is where I think, and I do believe, that it gives the Tigers an advantage in this game, situationally. The Tigers are 7-3 in Casey Mize's last 10 home day games. Okay, 5 over and 5 under in those 10 games. Okay, the Tigers are scoring 5.4 runs per game to 4.2 in this split. That comes out to 9.6 runs per game average. And the Tigers have lost the last 2, the last 2 have gone under. So it's 5 over, 5 under. Casey Mize, 7-3 in his last 10 home day game starts. 5.4 runs per game to 4.2 comes out to 9.6. In those games, in those 10 games, the Tigers have scored 5+ runs 6 times in those games. They've held their opponent to 2 runs or less 5 times. So, what did we say in the beginning of this cap? The Guardians are 3-6 in their last 9 day games at Detroit, scoring 1.88 runs per game. Casey Mize, 7-3 in his last 10 home day games. Lost his last home day game this year against Toronto, his only start this year. And in those 10 home day games where the Tigers are 7-3, Mize has pitched 55.1 innings, given up 48 hits, 18 earned runs, 12 walks, 6 home runs, and 49 strikeouts. That comes out to a 2.92 ERA and a 1.08 whip. So, guys, and he's given up less than a home run a game in that split. 6 home runs and 55 innings pitched in his last 10 home day game starts. Guys, Wager Detective is going to call it. Oh, and by the way, in those 7 wins in Casey Mize's last 10 home day game starts, the Tigers are 6-1 minus 1.5. So if you want to knock off chalk here, I think you take Wager Detective is going to call the Tigers here. He's going to call the Tigers. I think they win by more than 1.5 runs, and I think this game gets over the 7.5. You could see a couple home runs going out today. I think that Joey Cantillo has pitched great, but the competition is in question there. And he, like we said, what did we say about this cap with him? He, in his last, even though the Guardians are 4-1 in his last 5 starts, he does still have a 3.6 ERA, a 1.4 whip, and he's given up a home run per game, and he's not missing bats. He's only striking out 5.4 batters per 9 over his last 5 outings. And he does get better on 4 days rest for Joey Cantillo, but I just feel like here, I think this is a spot where the Tigers wake up. This is a spot where the Tigers' bats come alive. I know Cantillo's pitched great, but I think if we see Cantillo in trouble and the whip rises in a game like this, the Tigers will find a way to capitalize. And I just believe through everything we said in this cap, it just leaning towards for Wager Detective to call the Detroit Tigers money line. Detroit Tigers minus 1.5, and this game to go over 7.5. Let's see if the lines have changed here. Okay, we're moving a little fast. Okay, so 7.5. I take that plus 100. I was wrong yesterday. I think we get back today. I like the Tigers on the money line. Tigers plus 176, minus 1.5. I think the stronger play is just play it plain and simple, minus 120. I mean, I think that's a good number. It's not bad. It's not overly ridiculous. And I just think that it's going to go over and the Tigers win. This is Wager Detective. Follow me on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. And guys, more than anything else in the world, know that Wager Detective loves all his fans. I'm going to talk to you soon. Let's go, Guardians. Thank you for watching this video. This is Wager Detective, and Wager Detective loves all his fans out there around the world. I appreciate all of you. I'll talk to you soon.